All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's. Oh, let me see if it's working next. Um, okay, it looks like it's working now. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this month's masterclass on insights reports. Today, I am here with one of our customer outcome manager, Leander, and he will take you through configuring these reports and giving you a live demonstration. So, Leander, whenever you are ready.
All right. Hello, everybody. Thanks for joining, everybody that we have on. So like Susie mentioned, we're going to go through insights in Steelhead today. I'll go through just a demonstration on how to configure these insights, and then we'll have, or I'll leave some time for Q&A at the end here. Feel free to fire any questions into the chat as they come up. I'll have the chat open on a different screen, so if you think of anything, throw it in there right away. I'll find some stopping points if it makes sense where we can go through any questions. And I can stick around at the end to continue to go through questions if you have some specific things you'd like to see. So with that, I'll jump right into this demonstration here. And one thing that has come up before with insights or just reporting in general, we have so much data that we're capturing in our digital system in Steelhead here. So it's very important to understand how can we use that data to drive decisions or to improve our business. Chad he's an owner at Powder Coating Technologies. He had mentioned at one point that he's started to produce these weekly reports and he was presenting them to his operators. And he said his operators quickly realized that they had an objective and a goal and a target to reach, and they could see this data each day or actually instantly as these operators were stepping parts through production or as production or the admin team was shipping parts or invoicing for work or whatever. And what Chad found was that by showing this data to his team, it incentivized them to work harder. And it gave him more of a sense of purpose and a goal. And he found that his team actually improved and worked hard to meet these goals and actually ended up exceeding them. So if we can find the right reports and use these reports in these good ways, it's extremely powerful. The other beautiful thing, if we jump into Steelhead reporting here, is we don't have to take so much time to try to create all these different reports. Once we get the configuration dialed in, these reports are going to automatically update with the data as parts are being processed or things are happening in Steelhead. So we now don't have to spend so much time to create the reports. We can spend that time analyzing the reports to make better decisions. So first thing to know when you open up reporting is how current is this data? So at the very top, we see reporting data is current as of 11:19 at 3:24 a.m. This automatically regenerates every single night. But if we want to, right now it's 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I am in. And right now, if I want to pull the reporting, the most up-to-date reporting from today, I'm going to go into this Manage Databases and select Regenerate the Database. Based on previous information that we have, it'll give a time estimate. So that'll take about a minute here to regenerate, and then we'll see some more up-to-date data. So if I'm trying to look at things that happened today, I would want to always regenerate that database so I'm seeing data that actually was logged today. Dashboards are something that we can configure, and I'll start with these dashboards, which I would consider more of like the end product or the end configuration that you would want to get to when you're setting up insights for yourself. And then after showing these dashboards, then we'll go into configuring a single report, how you have so much control over the different data that you can see in the organization of the charts or whatever, and then how we can take that final configuration or report that we like and add it back into a dashboard. So kind of starting with what I would say is the finished product of the reporting. And then we'll go through configuration and bring it all back on a full circle here. So I'm looking at a dashboard right now for production KPIs. I also have a dashboard for quality KPIs, which we can see rework by month, this final report, and failed spec counts are a couple on this dashboard. Sales and finance KPIs. We can see the invoice revenue by customer report is here, or invoices by quarter. With each of these different dashboards that we have, I can choose this toggle to unlock the dashboard, and then I can make changes or adjust any of these reports on this dashboard. So if I need to make things smaller, or this one means more to me, I want to make that one bigger, I can do all sorts of different configuration changes, move things around. In some cases, people have a dashboard with many reports on here. So you can make, whatever you care about most big in the top left, and then everything else kind of small around it, whatever. If I like this new change, which I don't love because we got some blank space at the top, this doesn't make a whole lot of sense because now we're going to scroll past that to view a report every time. I like what was there before, so I'm going to reset the layout to what was there before. I didn't make any changes, so I don't need to save this. But just for the showing here, we'll save that, and then I'm going to toggle that off to lock this dashboard. How do we get an insight configured to something that we like, and how do we get that onto a dashboard to then be referred to time and time again? In the left side of this, and again, we're still in the reporting tile, we have all of our insights listed. So again, my goal here is just to show how we can configure these insights and not actually go through what is all of the data presented. As we can see, there is a lot of different data that's captured and pulled into insights for us. We can go through many different departments and many different individual reports. If I open up here, we'll say invoices by customer, for example here. And with these three lines, if I hover over it, it says hide sidebar. Some people call this hamburger menu because it kind of looks like a hamburger there. So we can hide that sidebar, make this more full screen and a little bit easier to see and to move around, and you can just see more information. Two things to know when configuring reports is you can configure the charts, and you can also configure the data table. So if we start with the chart and we see our little configure option in the top right here, we can configure our chart and say, I don't want a tree map. I kind of like a Y bar. And we can set our Y bar option. So now we can see, okay, each customer, their total revenue that we have invoiced for. And this is all time. It's all time because I haven't set a specific filter to start at some time and end at a different time. Or I haven't set any specific filters to filter for a specific customer. But I can say, I want to only see ABC Manufacturing. And now we only see ABC Manufacturing on this whole page. If I go back to my reports, this date range and customer filter here is sticky. So if I filter for a specific customer, and we could do a date range too, so let's say from the 1st of October to the 31st of October, so for our month of October. And we apply that date range, and we also apply the customer filter here. Now, any of these insights that I tab through or go through, those filters are still applied. If we go back to invoices by customer, I'm going to click this X to clear that customer filter. And I'm going to clear my dates because I just want to see all time. Who are my biggest customers? Who are we invoicing the most revenue for. So again, I can change my chart. So I'm going to say I like a Y bar here. And in this Y bar view, how it's sorted at the moment looks to be by default here, looking alphabetical. Well, not so much alphabetical, but I want to change how it's ordered. So I can say grab from this all columns and say order by customer. So I could click this arrow here to change it. So now that looks a little cleaner. Okay, this is A here. We can also click that black box to remove any of these settings that we've done in this configuration. If I drag this all columns option down, we can see that our y-axis right now is showing the total revenue as a sum. How it gets that data, if we go down into our chart, is we would see for one customer, we're going to have many different invoices over a period of time. So right now we can see for 3M, our total is $14,000. And our y-axis is taking that total revenue and summing it up. So if I hide my sidebar, make that a little bigger, then we can see that this y-axis is giving us our totals per customer. The configuration, you have a lot of different options. So we can split by some specific piece of information. So if I throw something in here, split by invoice, you can see it would stack up each invoice for that customer. But again, we're still grouping by customers. So that's why we get on the x-axis each customer here. Instead of splitting by the invoice, I can remove that. And I can choose different options to order by. So if we want to order by, again, like customer like we had, we could choose that option to order by customer. We do have an option to say where the customer is some value. So where the customer is ABC Manufacturing. If you're dealing with numerical inputs or something, you may say where the invoice is greater than $1,000 or whatever. So there's just so much to play around with here, and there's so much power in what you can configure in these reports. To show some real numbers in a data table, we can scroll down to our table instead of configuring the chart. So we can see, okay, we have invoices by customer. And now this really gets into the details here on this customer 3M. We've sent invoice number 830, where we had two different line items on that invoice, one line item for $150, another one for $1,000. And we can really drill down into this information. So the chart could be a nice first look. ABC Manufacturing, we do a lot of work for. Well, then we could drill down into each invoice and each line item on the invoice that we're invoicing for in our data table. But maybe we don't want our data table to have all that down to the line item. That's just too much information. Similar to our chart, we can say configure. And now we're grouping by customer first. Then we're grouping by each invoice. And then each invoice line item. Well, okay, I don't want to group by this invoice line item. That's just too much. I just want to see the invoices for each of these customers. So we can remove that with that black box, and now we're grouping by customer, then invoice. We also can configure our columns. So we have invoice ID, customer ID, accounting ID or name, and then the total revenue and the invoice date. If I want to move some things around, I can say, well, I want the customer here, even though, again, we are grouping by the customer 3M. And maybe I don't need the customer ID. That 126 doesn't mean anything to me. I want to see the actual customer. So that's where we dive down, and you can see I can drag this up to see all columns. So we would dive into all columns and see what are our other options here. Well, I have customer. So I'm going to bring customer up there. And I don't want a count of that customer. I want to see the unique values. I want to see the name here, 3M or ABC Manufacturing. We can collapse ABC Manufacturing. See Aaron 1, Allison Transmission, and so on. And I no longer need customer ID as a column here, so I'm going to remove that. So now we get customer as a column. We're also grouping by it. We have our invoice ID, which we're also grouping by. So maybe that's redundant. Maybe we don't need either of these columns. We can remove both of those. And all we need to see is just the group by the customer, our invoice, and then the total revenue and the date that we invoice that. We can also order by that invoice date. So if I take my invoice date here that's in this column and I say I want to order by that, we can order by our invoice date. And again, it's grouping by customer first. Another option, instead of moving that into there, is if on that column we just click it, invoice date. You can see now it's grouping by that invoice date and, or sorry, ordering by that invoice date. And then we can see the invoice date here. So let's say this is my finished product. This is my nice table of information. Maybe I want to change it into dark mode or something else. I can make changes or choose a different view here. Right now, I'll just leave it as this default option of Pro Light. And I like this configuration now. It's not too detailed for me. It's pretty quick and easy to drill into each customer. I can go and say where the customer equals some value here, or I know I can at the very top apply my filter here for this customer. So this report is good. I like it. I want to save this so I don't have to come in and reconfigure it every time I want to see this report. So what we have is the option to save configuration here. And we can call it invoices by customer. I'm going to say Leander. So that's myself here. I made this one, and this is the one that I like. So I'm going to save this as a new configuration. The star favorites this option, this configuration. So right now we see a whole drop down of options, different configurations that we've done. And I want to, every time I open up this invoices by customer, I want this one to show up. I don't want to have to go select it in the drop down. So again, another way to get your report to show up for you. So let's say I'm diving around into invoices by product, trying to look at all my different work that I do and what's bringing me some good revenue. This looks like month over month. And then I go back into my invoices by customer. You can see that this option or configuration that I just saved, invoices by customer Leander, populates for me. So again, don't have to make any selections. Now we can go a step further and we can say, throw this on my dashboard. I don't even want to have to go click into invoices by customer and scroll down to go find this information. I want a personal dashboard for myself, and I want to log in, and I want to go into reports, and I just want to look at my dashboard. So I'm going to create this dashboard and call it Leander's Reports. So I just created a dashboard from here. We can also, in this dashboards, create a dashboard up here. But now if I want to add this report to a specific dashboard, I'm going to say Leander's reports, update that dashboard. So now if I open up Leander's reports, I can see that this report is here. Now, again, I want to make it bigger, so I'm going to unlock that. I'm going to drag this all the way across. This is the biggest thing to me. I just want to see invoices by customer. I want to monitor this report. So I'm going to make that big. That's going to cover my whole dashboard. I could even drag it down some more. And I'm going to lock that as is. Or I'm going to save that configuration and now lock it. So there's so much power that we have. Just the quantity of different reports and things that we can drill into. And all of this is just fed automatically by people invoicing for work, or people, if we look at like processed parts, for example, people are stepping parts, people meaning our team on the floor, are stepping parts through production, and it will instantly feed back into this report. Again, we need to ensure that our reporting data is up to date, up to a certain time, which you can see now was updated since I regenerated at the beginning of this masterclass. So we now get up to 1 p.m. that day, any orders that were processed. And I want to see, as of late, what were the most recent jobs or work that was processed. So all of this data that's being collected in real time by people not necessarily logging it into a spreadsheet somewhere for us. All they're doing is moving parts through production in this example, and it's feeding back into our processed parts report for us. So there's so much different information here, and again, you can go into any one of these reports, choose to configure this report. I don't need this part transfer ID. So let's get that out of there. I just want to see what was the work order, what was the part number. It's right now grouping by processed year, month. I don't need that. I just want to see the work order, the part number. So there's so much power in how you group the report or how you order it, split it, where is filtering for some specific piece of data, and then just going through more columns. So we have more columns of information that we want to add to this report. We can grab them from here. If there's something that you're looking for that isn't here, you can also check out the configure columns option in that report here. What I see is, okay, for this processed parts report, we can add some more information, some more columns that we want to be options to add to this report. So on my customer, sales order, process, all these things, and we can save those columns. So at the bottom here, now we get our process. We have our customer. And we have all this information that's options or columns on a report at the moment. And if it's too much information, then we just simply go into configure, and the black box will remove that column from our report. Oftentimes we find our customers don't need to know the ID, right? They don't need the process ID. They need the process. This was powder coating. So we can change that or remove that. So station ID, rack ID, user ID, customer ID, sales order ID, process ID. I can remove all those. I like this report here. I'm going to save that configuration. Processed parts 2, we'll call it. Maybe sometime later I come into process parts 2, I go to configure. I can make some more changes, remove some things, save it as is, and just update the existing report. Again, feel free to just throw questions in the chat. We got 5 minutes left. I'm not seeing any questions myself.
And Leander, can you see the QA section?
All I see is webinar chat.
Okay. So there's two in QA. One of them, I guess I could read them out loud for you if you.
Yeah.
The first one, is there a way to not show the customers with no data when looking at the invoices by customer chart?
Okay. Invoices by customer. Is there a way to not show the customer
Yep.
when looking at this data?
Mhm. If they
Okay.
don't have any data, that would.
Okay. So you're saying if the customer doesn't have any invoices, then just don't have that customer on this list.
Hmm.
I see. Um, I can double check on that one, but I believe that is how it is working. If I
Okay.
look at right now, if we do our Y bar again, just so we can see the extent of the customers that are showing up here that we've invoiced for, there's only so many that I see here. But if I open up my whole customer list, we get 99 customers in total. So if there's a specific customer here that we haven't created any invoices for, then this customer, for example, I'll copy that name. There's no data here. So if we go back arrow, back to invoices by customer, and if we go to our Y bar, just so we can see, I'm not seeing that customer anywhere on here. I can try to filter by it in here. And there's just no options because we've never invoiced for this customer. So if that answers the question, that shows us that yes, we don't see that customer if we've never invoiced for them or we don't have any data for them.
Okay. The next one, is it possible to change the visuals of the chart, example, bar graphs, and can you change the color of the bars?
Hmm. Okay. So yes, we can change that, right? Like we've done here, where we can do different versions of these charts, where we can change it to a Y bar, we can change it to a Y line, or whatever that we would like. The question on the colors, can we change the colors? The only options we have are changing the entire background or the entire report here. Um, but not necessarily an option to pick like this bar to be this color. But a
Okay.
good thing to think about, good feedback.
Yeah. And then one of them, I'm not really sure if it's a question. It just says filter by treatment type dash treatment name question mark. I can.
Treatment type or treatment name. Okay, so if we look at process parts, trying to think of a report off the top of my head that would have the treatment defined. Treatment type, treatment name.
Work order by treatment type, treatment name is, he sent another.
Okay, work order by treatment type or treatment name. So if I look at process parts or even looking at my filter options up top here, we'll see if we have an option to create a filter set for a specific treatment. I haven't had that exact request, but it looks like we do have a treatment here. So let's go through this one. So up top here, so I quickly breeze through some options here to filter by a specific pieces of information up top, but we also have an option to create different filter sets. A filter set, how it works is we can go create a set of filters. So if we want to filter for a specific treatment in this case, see if we have something black powder, blue powder, white powder. We could say filter for these three specific treatments. We could also add to this filter set and say, hey, also, if you find the powder coating product, if we're looking at invoicing or something, add that to this filter set. or the powder coating process. Let's say if we're looking at something that includes processes, and we have a powder coating process or auto line powder coat. This is a demo domain, so there's a whole bunch of information. We can throw all these filters together into one filter set and call this powder coating. And we'll save that filter set. So to answer the question in the chat, it would be you would want to just create a filter set for the treatment only. Treatment group would be a good one, just because then if you have your powder coating there, but if we have a filter set applied up top now it'll automatically apply all those filters that I've saved here. So if I'm looking at part transfers, process comes into play, and we can filter for only parts that have gone through the process of the powder coating or auto line powder coating. Looks like process isn't a column on here, but I could not seeing it there. But either way, I guess we get the point on that one, that we could create our filter set to apply a specific set of filters again. And then as we go through different reports, we would see that filter set is sticky here still. So if I want to clear it, I can clear it and go through these different reports.
Okay, just a couple more.
Perfect.
When looking at something like spec measurements under the quality management insight, will you still see failing measurements if they are archived?
Spec measurements. And we're looking at spec measurements here, failing ones, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And then
so
if they are archived is the last part of the question. I would think not, but
yeah, if they're archived, they should be removed from here. But we can go through and check one out. Another note or a couple things that we could think about is there's about this insight report, so we can see if there's any description. We can read our description. Okay, this is an overview of parts that have failed specs, pass rates per user. Some of these descriptions, if you look at all invoices or something, there's a little bit more information. But to go back to this one on the spec performance here, not seeing that answer in my description here. So I'm going to try Sonar, our AI chatbot here, and we can ask that question. Will archived spec measurements that were failing show up in the failed spec count insight report? And we are a few minutes over, so feel free to drop anybody. But I am gonna continue to go through these questions. I do have a little bit of time here, so if I don't get answers on everything, then we can follow up, or support can follow up with answers. So we just tried Sonar now. Will archive spec measurements that were failing show up in the failed spec count insight report? So that's what I'm looking at here, is this insight report. Yes, spec measurements that were failing will show up in the spec performance report. But I'm not seeing an exact answer on if a archived measurement would show up, which would include archived measurements that failed. So the report is designed to show historical failure patterns, which would include archived measurements that failed. So it's looking like the answer is yes. Maybe you could throw back in the chat. Do you think it should be? Do you think they should show up if we archive it? Do we still want that history? I would probably vote that we wouldn't want that, right? Because we archived it because it was a mistake or something. If it was a real measurement that was failing, we wouldn't archive it. So I would think that archived ones shouldn't show up here. And I could run a test myself and on one of these at the end of this call and try to archive one and see if it goes away.
Okay. And then um, does the current customer list, I think it was looking at the customer invoices report, does the Y bar have a cap on how many customers will fit on there? Um, saying,
That's a good question. I haven't hit it myself. Seen a lot of customers on it. If we do our Y bar version, it could squeeze them in there. But I guess I could just, Susie, do we have the name of who asked that question? We could follow up and just get a
I
for sure answer because I guess I can't say for sure myself, but
yeah, it just says anonymous attendee on that one actually, so I can type back to it and try get a company name.
okay.
One of them, can you decrease the Y values on the graphs to make the bars appear larger?
Decrease the Y values. Okay, so basically this right now how it's going in increments. Are we saying decrease the increments? That way we can see some of these real small ones. Um, right now that's all just default set because we have somebody who is much higher, so it auto adjusts that based on who we have showing. For example, if I look at, let's just take uh, applied materials, B&S machine shop, and BAE systems or something. And we'll do B&S, BAE, applied materials, and we apply that filter. Right now, this chart has been set to handle all customers in this account or in this domain. So at this point, that increment is set here. Um, if we can log the name on that one, perhaps we could follow up and see if we'll follow up with our developers to see if that could be an option.
Okay. And and then I got a first name for that one. They were about the customers. They were just wondering if they had could fit more than 100 customers on that
Mm, yeah,
thing. But we can look into
yeah,
that and get back to them as well.
yeah. Because I've never hit the limit, so I would imagine that they would all show up there.
Hmm.
But again, I've never tested to
Okay.
see if we can.
All right. That looks like all of them that I have in QA.
Okay. If there's anybody left on, the only other thing that I kind of didn't go through was the option to export any of these reports. We can export, for example, we have a table of information here and we can export it. We can change our file name. We can export to CSV or JSON or HTML or whatever other files that we'd like. If we look at our charts, we can export these to CSV or a lot of people like the option to export to PNG. So those export options are there. But thank you everybody for attending. Uh, Hopefully you got something out of this just to learn the clicks a little bit more, just the power that comes with insights in Steelhead, and hopefully you can play around with it yourselves and are able to configure some reports, configure some dashboards. That way you can spend more time focusing on how you can improve the business by looking at the numbers and less time trying to get the numbers presentable to yourself. So you do it once, save that configuration, and you should be rocking and rolling from there. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Leander.